Oh, I'll be brave if you're brave. I'll be brave, but only if you're brave. And it could be just you and me. We'll be family. Just wait and see.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to tonight's Lung Cancer Living Room. We're so happy to have you all joining us from wherever you may be around the country or around the world. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm Danielle Hicks. For those of you who may not know, I am Chief Patient Officer here at GoTo Foundation for Lung Cancer. For those of you who may not be familiar with our living room, it's a support and education series that we created specifically with patients and caregivers in mind, with the aim of facilitating educational talks from key opinion leaders in a format and language that the layperson can easily understand. So we hope you'll enjoy tonight's living room. Tonight we have Laurie, Fenton, Ambrose, who is President and CEO of GoTo Foundation for Lung Cancer, joining us, as well as Francis Spruit, who has been a panelist on the living room before, for those of you who've been watching for a while. He is a lung cancer survivor and patient advocate extraordinaire. Tonight, we're going to be speaking about the importance, or what we think is important to share with our community about GoTo, who we are, and what our overarching 5-year vision is, built completely with patients in mind. Moving forward, what we're going to be doing with our living rooms is highlighting or spotlighting different areas of focus. And tonight, not only are we going to be sharing with you what that overarching vision is, but we're going to dig in a little bit into patient advocacy and why it's important to become a patient advocate. And as I said, Francis is no stranger to this area, so we're thrilled to have him here tonight. Before we jump into tonight's program, though, I want to mention a couple things. One, Bonnie sends her apologies that she's unable to join us. She was double booked and couldn't get out of her other commitment, but she's here with all of us in spirit, and we will see her again next month. But what I'd like to start with, and as those of you, again, who regularly watch the program know, I like our panelists and the people speaking to tell us a little bit about themselves, why lung cancer is important to them, and then we'll jump into tonight's program. So Laurie, if you wouldn't mind, I'd love to start with you.
Oh. Well, Danielle, thank you. And to all of those who have tuned in again to this very special and signature program of GoTo Foundation that was founded by Bonnie and Danielle to literally bring hope from what they would say their living room to yours. And I am just so pleased to be side by side with Bonnie and certainly the entire GoTo team. I've been a lung cancer advocate for over 16 years, and there isn't a day that goes by that I'm not humbled by this opportunity to improve our collective outcomes and as passionate as ever about achieving these goals. So I've been touched by this disease with friends who have had it, who have motivated me to elevate my voice and give my energy to doing right for a community that has long deserved it. So I'm a staunch patient advocate through and through, and will continue to be for as long as I can. So thanks, Danielle.
Thank you, Laurie. Francis, what about you? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Diagnosed. It was last December, actually. I was diagnosed 13 years. So I'm a non-small cell lung cancer survivor. I had a right upper lobectomy as well as chemotherapy in the spring of 2008. And later on in the program, I'll tell you good people why I advocate and why it's important for us to advocate and why we need to get more survivors and anyone who is concerned about lung cancer, get them on board and help us advocate, for sure.
Thank you, Francis. Okay, so with that, We're going to pull up. It's a pretty detailed conversation. So tonight we're doing things a little bit different, and we've got some slides that we want to share with you that will really show you the work and the vision. The vision of GoTo and the work that is, kind of filling up the back end behind that. So can we pull up the slides? Once that's up, Laurie, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Okay. Does that face look familiar? I bet it does. But Danielle and Francis, certainly. What we want to do tonight, because the GoTo team is so excited about having spent some very important time together and really thinking about what it is that we could do to truly drive the next generation of survivorship, and in our view, transforming survivorship. That's the whole focus that Bonnie and I have brought together as this organization has come to be. But the vision of really trying to be, as Bonnie would say, aggressive and doubling down across the board in every sense of the word. We really want to see accelerated progress in a way that we haven't realized before. And so this is our opportunity to share with all of you why we are here, what our vision is, and how I hope that we all can collectively work to achieve this, and look forward to the dialogue to come around this. So it's what we refer to as calls to action. We are going to be doubling down to transform survival by 2025. So the next slide. I know that the vast majority, but I know there's some, know about us. But for those who may be tuning in for the very first time to the living room, it's just important to ground you a little bit with who we are. And first and foremost, we've been founded by patients, and we serve our patient community. And it is about saving, extending, and improving the lives of those who could be vulnerable, at risk, and diagnosed with the disease. And we've actually, when Bonnie and I thought through this, and this is even a conservative kind of number, we have over 25 plus years of combined service to our community that is embedded locally and is sharing best practices now globally. And with our coming together now as GoTo Foundation, we're stretching coast to coast and everywhere in between. But our principal offices are in the San Francisco Bay Area, Washington, D.C. And the other thing that's so important, because it means a great deal to those who are supporters and sustain our work, we're among the highest performing charities and have received the ratings that put us within that 7% percentile of all charities that are reviewed. Those are thousands of them, and we feel very humbled to continue in consecutive years to achieve this, because we want all of you to know that what we do is done with the highest level of governance and integrity and thought about making sure we're delivering for all of you. It's interesting, we kind of sat back and we put some numbers to paper, and through all of our programs, our outreach like the living room, our events, our newsletters, our community activities, we reach over 10 million people annually. And we want to grow that as much as possible exponentially over the years. But it is important to know that we are reaching and we're connecting, but we still want more, a part of that network. Obviously, we're governed by a national board of directors. We have an extraordinary scientific leadership board who provides us with the sage counsel on our research and community-based activities around early detection and treatments. They're extraordinary people who care as deeply as all of us do, as that we're listening. And of course, with Francis here as a representative, we also have a very select group of people who work with us in a volunteer capacity in a more embedded way to help us execute on our missions. And I say to Francis and to the other ambassadors on the council, a big thank you to the interest and the efforts that you provide. The next slide. So our vision is to double survival rates. They're approximately 20% now, but we are committed to seeing them rise to at least 40% by 2025. And our mission is transforming survivorship, as I had indicated earlier, by saving and extending and improving the lives of our entire community. And I hope everyone will appreciate that our values cut us to and through our core, and that we are always patient first, that we will always be credible, community-minded, because we know the vast majority of people are accessing their care in communities most close to home. We are reliable. Whatever you need, we will be there for you. We'll be trailblazing. We don't mind being disruptors because sometimes you just need to be. And we will always be authentic. Our work is about meeting the needs of patients, filling gaps that exist, and doing exactly what we learn from all of you needs to be done. We're going to empower everyone and ignore no one and do whatever it takes, no matter the need, whatever the need, and we're going to get it done together. So these are our North Stars, shall I say, our guiding principles that bind us and our community so close together. Next slide. So this is a slide that I think is one of the most important, that represents who we are in, I think, the most simplest but impactful way, is that by coming together as GoTo Foundation for Lung Cancer, we have brought the best under one roof, and that it is now allowing us to provide our community with excellence across the entire continuum of care that always begins with patients and their needs and carries us through and then cycles back through this process. So our work is not just about early detection. It's just not about making sure that we can drive research. It's about how all of this interconnects from that continuum of care that begins with early detection, to managing diagnoses, to making sure that the navigation of the clinical trials and getting comprehensive biomarker testing is occurring for everyone, that will drive more precision-based medicine and that will improve that long-term high-quality survivorship. And from what we learn from that process, we will feed right back in and through. That is one of the beauties of our organization. There's no one else that works in this intricate way across the entire continuum of care as we do. Next slide. So, from a patient perspective, what we wanted to do is showcase that we are here wherever you may find yourself on your journey. If you are asking yourself, could I be at risk? Should I get a comprehensive biomarker test? What are my treatment options? Where do I go for screening and treatment in communities? How can I contribute to research? And how do I connect with community? And how do I elevate my voice? These are the questions that many of you may have been asking yourselves, along with many others that may not even be captured in this. But the point of it is to know that you are center, and that whatever you may need and require, we are here as a hub to provide that support, that information, that connectivity, and the opportunity to be engaged and involved in a way that makes sense for you. And I can tell you that if for whatever reason we can't answer that question, we know someone who can and would quickly direct you to a resource if it's not readily available among ourselves. So this is a great representation of how to think about our work through a patient lens. Next slide. This is an important one because we'll be cycling back to this because it is one of the more important core program areas that we operate in. We have been able to establish excellence, as we refer to it, working with providers in community-based medical facilities all across the country. And what we now have are relationships that have levels of excellence in screening and through the care continuum now present in 45 states. You can obviously see where we have high incidence and where we need to bring even greater focus if there isn't excellence so designated. But this is what is guiding our work in so many ways, and we are so proud to also share with you that as we continue to build out and expand this network across the country, that we are now also designating VA medical centers within this network. So again, the intent is to be able to help direct you to the best screening and care that we have been personally engaged with helping establish so that we can point you in the right direction. But this will continue to be a guide star for us as we look at where we need to be and how we can be helpful to our community, and particularly in places that have high incidence or have a more underserved and vulnerable community.
I agree, Laurie, and I don't want to
Yeah.
interrupt. If we could stay on this slide for 1 second, because I think it's important. Thanks, Rocky, for bringing it back. I think this is one of the things, as Laurie pointed out, that we are most proud of. Of course, we're proud of all the things we do, but this really is game changing. As Bonnie always likes to say, 80% of cancer patients are seen in the community setting, right? So the 20% that might have access to academic centers where they have the luxury, if you will, of having medical oncologists and cancer care teams that get to focus just on one or two types of cancer. The community docs don't have that luxury, right? They treat whatever walks in the door. And as many of you know, lung cancer in particular is sort of, leading the way when it comes to precision medicine, and other cancers are now looking to us to see how we did it. But the expectation with how fast and furiously things are happening in lung cancer with, new discoveries, whether it be drugs or diagnostics or, successes in clinical trials, to expect that, a medical oncologist, particularly in a more rural area, would know everything there is to know as it happens is really, in my opinion, unfair and unrealistic. So by creating this community, we're able to communicate directly with them, as these developments happen, and they're able to connect with one another and learn from one another as well. So I just kind of wanted to stop there and give a little bit more detail about how really special this is and how this community of centers of excellence was built with the patients in mind, so that they don't have to travel to get the best practices and standards of care. Sorry, now you can
And
go to the next
Danielle,
slide.
please.
Yeah.
No, but jump in and dive in. Obviously, you have been as much a part of the development and evolution of this, and there's so much to this at a lot more depth and texture to each of these discussion points that we have. But I just want to echo, and I'm so glad that you pointed out again, community-based care. That's what it's all about for us, because it is where we know our people need the greatest access. And if we can help set standards of excellence in best practices across this continuum, this is what is going to transform survivorship. Not everybody can get to an MD, so how do we make sure that it's the right.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, and especially, and I know we're going to get into a little bit more detail about it in a little bit, but when you look at, and our community may or may not know this, and I know a lot of people that watch the living room, you're watching it because you have been diagnosed with lung cancer, right? And when we talk about early detection, some of you may be thinking, well, what does that have to do with me? Because I already have it, right? But what I like to look at continuing to have these robust conversations around early detection, because A, we know the earlier we find it, the more likely we are able to treat and cure it. And B, your voices are extensions of ours, right? So those you know out there who may be at risk or who may qualify for screening based on the guidelines as they sit right now, you're the ones who can help us get that message out to get more people screened. I think it's right now, the national average is around 4% of the millions of people who qualify for screening are actually utilizing low-dose CT to try to find this cancer early. So, and it's scary, and I know all of those things, but I think it's really important that our community, particularly the community that's watching the living room, knows that they are the warriors on the ground to spread the word about screening for their neighbors, their friends, their families, their mailman. You know, preach it loud and preach it clear. So, anyway, I'm off my soapbox about it now.
No, it's great.
And Francis, please feel free to. Yeah, we will. And Francis, please feel free to chime in. I think you're on mute, but please feel free to chime in as I'm certain that you, walking, talking, living, and breathing all of this, have thoughts as well.
I can add to that. It's really many of the viewers to the living room and the people we interact with. It obviously start with their own diagnoses and how lung cancer has affected them. And once you start moving into advocacy, for instance, and that's what we're talking about tonight as well, you suddenly start realizing that, yes, you advocate for yourself, but then in addition to that, you start advocating for people that you don't even know. You advocate for people who are, and suddenly your world becomes much broader than just your disease, right? Just your lung cancer. It's actually a significant move you make in your emotional mind from being a patient to being an advocate, and then doing it for more than just yourself.
Yeah.
That's great. Bravo. Thanks, Francis. Okay, Rocky, back to the slides. Thank you.
And we'll go to the next one too. So now let's get into a little bit of the details about how we are going to focus on transforming survivorship and doubling down, again, as Bonnie often says. So let's go to the next slide. So, and this is great to what both Francis and Danielle were just referencing. But if we break it down into 4 key goals, first, it's about how we increase the rate of lung cancers diagnosed early. And if you think about that, screening is such a critical piece, but it's not the only piece, because the issue of what we refer to as incidental pulmonary nodules also is as important because of the, as I'm sure many watching may have experienced, being misdiagnosed or incidentally found because of a completely separate medical situation. And so all of a sudden, when you fell off a ladder and had to have a CT look at, your chest, you learned, whoa, there's something there. So how do we best manage and bring finding incidental pulmonary nodules into that management process? So just like a screening encounter, they can also flow through standards and guidelines in a way that will give them the best targeted management process. So you've got screening, you've got incidental pulmonary nodule management, and then the third piece of that is investing in that biomarker research that we ultimately hope may be able to help find cancers in the blood or in other biomedical samples, sputum, urine, things like that. So it's really three-pronged. But if we bring attention and focus and strategies to how we can increase the rate of lung cancers diagnosed early, that's going to put us well on our way. So that's number one. But it's not just what you do with what you find. It's making sure that everyone diagnosed gets comprehensive biomarker testing so that we can better guide more precision-based medicine that has better outcomes because of markers that may have a specific targetable opportunity with some of the new drugs coming online. And again, many of you watching understand this because you have had testing and you've had a mutation or a marker identified where certain drug treatments or immunotherapies will pose better outcomes in most cases. This is critical. So this is the kind of the 1-2 punch that if we can find them early, but then make sure if diagnosed, you're on the right treatment pathway, as we say, the right treatment at the right time, that is going to also be transformational. Then obviously,
and Laurie, if I can jump in. Sorry,
yes.
I apologize. But before we jump off
no,
comprehensive biomarker testing, I just want, our community to know too that, this has been, I don't want to say a fight, but sort of for a long time, right? And mainly in the later stage patients, those that qualified for this biomarker testing. But because of the research that's been done, and more recently, the Addario trial and what that showed, even in early stage patients, having that biomarker testing done, regardless of stage, is proving to be more and more important. So it's more important than ever across all lung cancer diagnoses to really be focusing on this biomarker testing and engaging with your healthcare um, uh, physicians and having the conversations with them if you have not had the biomarker testing to really understand what your cancer looks like. Precision medicine is what it's all about, and whether it's a marker that there is an FDA approved therapy for, or if there's something in clinical trials, because quite often, and a lot of people are afraid of clinical trials, but quite often that might be the best first option for you based on that biomarker testing and all the research that's happening there. So I just wanted to stop there really quick and give a quick explanation of why it's important that our community know about this, because again, we count on you all to spread the word of what's happening right now. So we can go back.
And just
thanks.
And just to add to that too, Danielle, and I'm channeling Bonnie when I say this because she is the one, frankly, so embedded in precision-based medicine work at this moment with so many of her board positions and advocacy work in this area. It's about being able to understand the progress in the last 5 years versus the last 50, and knowing that that progress is based on therapies that are being targeted, to these markers. And that is what we're seeing help improve the survival rates and even the quality of life that years ago could never be imagined, but we're now seeing evolve and actually be accelerated. So it's so critical, and this goes back to that wonderful slide about excellence across the continuum of care. So it's how everything keeps connecting and moving in the right sequencing and flow, so that a beat isn't skipped or a piece isn't missed in a puzzle. Because if you get all the pieces right and continue to flow them, as I've often said, no scientific breakthrough is worth its weight in gold unless it can actually get to people in a accessible and affordable way. So the work to advance research and then get those breakthroughs implemented and in those community settings is an example of that flow and that link across the continuum that improves survivorship downstream. So
Absolutely.
It's goosebumps thinking about where we are today and what it means and what we're doing about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. All right, let's go to the next slide. And Danielle, you can go, okay, enough, because once I get going, you may have to say
Yeah,
back in your
no,
cage,
no, no,
Bob.
no, no. You're doing great. Rocky, can you back it up one slide, because there's two more areas of focus that I think are
Yeah.
really important, that I want Laurie to touch on a little bit.
Yes, and thank you. See, I got so excited. I'm already ahead of myself. We have four goals. The two that I mentioned first. But again, and this is what we're going to actually draw out and talk about a little bit in more detail, is how we are increasing that reach and the impact of our community's engagement. So it's continuing to build community, connect community, involve community that will also contribute mightily to how we transform survivorship. No one should ever feel alone, and no one should ever feel as though they're helpless, because there are ways to be engaged, involved, and to be making a difference. And of course, the last piece, how we can improve a quality of life as our community lives longer. And so much of that involves how we are sharing our experiences, how we continue to collect information that can inform how to refine the management of the disease to the benefit of the quality of our lives. And that's one of the roles of our registry, among other things. So that kind of lays it out. Those are the four key goals that we are focused on. And then if you think of it like a house, you've got these key goals as kind of part of the roof, with the center of the house with the roof as our vision of transforming survivorship. You need walls to then hold that up. So you have the programmatic work that is going to be connected to each of these. And that's what the next slide is illustrative of. It is our key programs that will be brought together to advance those four key goals. It's how we will continue to support our patients and caregivers, and there's no one who knows this better and is 120% about this than Danielle. It's how we are working to mobilize research and evidence for impact. It's how we are maximizing those networks of medical facilities, providers, and partners that map of the country was representing. It's how we're leveraging public policy to make sure that our entire healthcare delivery system is meeting the needs of our community. And it's how we are serving as that go-to hub for you, for information and support and engagement and involvement. So each one of these 5 programs is of the same strength and support that is sustaining those goals and our ultimate vision going forward. So I'm going to stop there, because I know, Danielle, you may want to add, and even Francis, to this before we actually pull out one of these core programs and talk a little bit more about that one, which would be the leveraging public policy.
Yeah, Laurie, I think you hit the nail on the head in explaining sort of the walls, that are kind of holding up, the foundation and the roof of everything we do. And I mean, I've been intimately involved with, creating this plan from day one, and it was not a plan that was, created overnight. It was thought through in a meaningful way, with a lot of opinions, not only internally but externally, helping us kind of come up with it. And so I personally couldn't be more proud of the work we're doing and the work we will continue to do. And like I said, when we talk about this community engagement, this is one of the things I'm most excited about when we talk about our reach out into the community, whether it's patients or caregivers or friends and family members of those who have been diagnosed with lung cancer. Building this community and this community engagement, and Francis is going to talk about it from an advocacy standpoint in just a little bit, but it's so big. And we've heard, there's so many cliches about it takes a village and all of these things, but it's really, really true. And when we look to other disease sets that have succeeded in this way, it's because they built these communities that developed these really loud voices and really affected change. And I know that we will be able to do it with all the incredible people we have working with us, either at GoTo Foundation or those like Francis on our NAC and our board of directors and our scientific leadership board. I mean, I think we have an amazingly strong team working for the patients. I mean, that's why we're here. Everything we do, and again, kind of channeling Bonnie, it's a patient first approach. It's hugs, not handshakes. It's, how do we get this done together? So, yeah. And Francis, I don't know if you have anything to add before we jump into your part.
I'll get to that in a little bit, but specifically the leveraging of public policy, right? And we can real quickly, in our minds, and everybody understands that it translates in real money, right? It's funding, it's commitments that is being made at the federal level and state levels, right? And there's pots of money sitting there, and all we're asking is a fair shake. Give us the funding, and we'll drive it towards, finding new treatments, finding more new medications, and it's all, your slides provided a real clear picture there, but it all is to the benefit of patients today and tomorrow, right? That's what we're after.
Yes. Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
Laurie, I don't know if you have anything you want to finish off with before we jump. I'm trying to be mindful of time too. Jump into.
I want to go to Francis, because if we really want to talk about, obviously, one of those core foundational pillars that's supporting, and particularly with our national summit coming up, I think it's so great, Francis, that you could speak to this and share what your experiences are like and what this means to you as you've just begun articulating. And I want to just turn it back to you, Danielle and Francis, to kind of take it from here, and I'll chime in as I need to.
That's great. Thanks, Laurie. So Francis, I want to start a little bit because you have been participating on the Hill in particular with us for many years now. Can you tell us a little bit about how you got started in that and what this participation sort of looks like?
Yeah, sure. So that was, it was in 2012. I actually had to look it up. In 2012, I had my first summit in Washington, D.C. And since then, I attended 7 more summits. And the next summit, which will be in March, and you'll talk about it later, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the next summit, I will go again. And if I say I go again, in the past, we've always done in-person summits where a group of advocates gets together. It's a community that is singularly focused on the well-being of the lung cancer community, right? We come together as a group, and we knock on doors, and we make our representatives' lives somewhat, if not very, uncomfortable, because we tell them our stories. This is really the key, and there's nothing mysterious about it. I tell my story about my lung cancer, and off we go. And the real magic actually happens when we tell that story over and over again. We do that with a group of 5 to 8 people, or whatever the makeup of the team at the time is, and we keep telling that story. And we do that once, we do that twice, and we do it, like me, now 8 times. And there's no doubt advocates out there who have done it more often. The GoTo Foundation is a community of friends, and friends who just happen to become friends because they have lung cancer. It's heavy to begin with, but it's very rewarding work to become an advocate and go out there and try and make a difference. Absolutely. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Francis.
And
go ahead, Laurie.
No. I was just going to say it's advocating at the federal and even state level has extraordinary potential to affect healthcare delivery, increased research funding, access issues, coverage and reimbursement. There are so many agencies involved and opportunities involved at both the federal and the state level that it really can almost feel overwhelming. But it's where there is a critical mass of difference to be made, and why having strategies, at these pressure points are so important, to echo your comments. So Danielle, I'm sorry I was interrupting you.
No, not at all. You weren't interrupting me at all. I think it's important, and thank you for adding that, because I know, and I'll try not to derail us too much, but I know when the first time I went to the Hill, right, I had no idea what I was doing, and I was nervous, and I was terrified, actually, and not even being a lung cancer patient, I can't, and I won't even pretend to to try to understand what that might feel like for somebody who's actually walking the walk, right? But once you get in there and you realize what you're doing and how it's able to affect change is huge. And I think I didn't really understand that until I participated the first time, right? Because I had never had any reason. I was walking, along in my life, kind of just like everybody else. I just didn't know. And so thank you for giving a little bit more detail about that. Francis, how do you view the Voices Advocacy Summit, and what has been your takeaway from the participation over many years?
So the mission is clear, right? Or let me formulate that. The mission is this: you go there. The Advocacy Summit brings the community together for a few days every year. It's just I think it's like 2-3 days, right? And you get trained. You get a briefing from the GoTo team, and then you go. You literally walk up the hill and you go and visit these people. Well, today with COVID, we do that virtually. There is really no difference. Our mission is exactly the same, right? Because we're going to tell them our story. We tell them what we need, and we tell them, because we are here as lung cancer survivors, we need your help as representatives. That's really so abbreviated. That's really the mission, right? And the power comes from the multitudes of us, and we need more and more, and we need to just keep throwing people toward that mission. That's really what that's why I'm on this call, to make people sign up and become an advocate, really.
And I think that's great. And we've all been living in this COVID space for almost a year now, right? And in spite of some of the frustrations that have come along with that, there have been silver linings, right? And really, in this instance, when we're talking about being on the Hill, doing it virtually gives folks who wouldn't have been able to come to DC to do this live an opportunity to participate and share their voice. So one silver lining as it pertains in particular to the Voices Summit is it doesn't matter where you are in the country. You don't have to physically be in DC to participate and to help us sort of spread the word, if you will, to our state representatives. So just a little kind of, aha moment. Francis, how do, in your opinion, how does a patient advocate, whether it be, a patient themselves, a caregiver, a loved one, telling their story either about themselves or their loved one, help impact federal funding?
So it's actually we know, the lung cancer community knows how many people are really affected, right, by lung cancer. It's like 150,000 people die of lung cancer every year, right? Now you go to those offices on Capitol Hill, you knock on those doors, and you find that most of them don't have a clue. They have no idea how many people are affected. It's sad, right? So that's one part of it. They're in their positions of power, and they have no idea how many people, and maybe a little bit more political, how many of their constituents are or will be affected by lung cancer. We need to tell them that, right? And we are there to tell them about our lung cancer journeys and our challenges. And we don't do that just one time. I keep going back to this same theme, right? I'm going to tell you one time. I'm going to tell you until I am no longer around, because that's how it works. I'm going to repeat it over and over again, and that was really a powerful moment when I shared my story. I usually go with my wife, and we shared our story, and the aide who we talked to, he recognized us. He's like, oh, there's Rosalind and Francis again, and so keep telling it and keep coming back, and they, eventually, this is always how it works with the little drops, right? Eventually people will first recognize it. They will accept your plight, or a plight of the lung cancer community in this case, and then they will start moving towards, doing the right thing.
I think it's really important to point out that it's an opportunity for education, right? Because people don't know what they don't know. And there's nothing like, this type of information coming from the horse's mouth. I mean, there's plenty of things in our lives that we don't know about until it impacts us. And just what you're saying is kind of resonating with me in that sort of why it's so important, not just that we educate our own community and our whether it be our patients or healthcare professionals, but also those serving us up on the Hill, right? Our representatives up there, they don't know what they don't know. So it's wildly important that we help them understand. Sorry, Francis.
It's very important. And I just want to add there, when we started this journey many years ago, I didn't even know my district representative, right? And Mike Thompson and us, we've become friends, right? And through advocacy, you meet these people, and it turns out these are just normal people, right? They just happen to be in a place where they can actually help us and make a difference. That's just awesome. Yeah.
I agree. Laurie, I don't know if you have anything to add before I ask my next question of Francis.
Francis and I go way back, and we've been together walking those halls, and it is you feel like you've taken 3 steps ahead and then 2 steps back, because every 2 years Congress changes, members leave, staff move on, and so that is why, to Francis's point, the import of just staying steady and continuing to educate, Danielle, as you were saying, because what you learn is that it's either, wow, I didn't know that, or yes, my family's been touched by it too. And it may be the first time that they've even publicly acknowledged it. So at the end of the day, what we do is strategically think through what it is we need Congress to do, and then structure our calls to action accordingly, whether it's through our women's legislation, securing multiple millions of dollars in dedicated research pipelines, making sure that when we get breakthroughs, that they're covered and reimbursed so that people can afford to take them, and that we are also working to ensure that healthcare delivery is really reaching those most in need. So these are just some of the things that we have to think through each Congress that may have a different personality, shall we say, and different issues that come forward, but it's how we stay steady, continue to educate, and continue to ask for the help and support that this disease is so deserving of. And we have been achieving some great outcomes, not clearly enough, but we are making progress, and we want to really accelerate that. And the more people that we can have a part of this advocacy effort, I think the better we'll be collectively as a community.
That's great, Laurie. Thank you for explaining that again. I think that, like me, when I first, kind of got active in this space, I didn't know a lot. So I think you explaining, I could see a lot of people saying, well, I did it last year. Why do I have to go tell my story again? Right. So being able to explain, the why behind it needs to be an annual thing. And we need to continue to grow our community and grow our voices on an annual basis is so important. So thank you. Francis, last question, and because I know you've participated in advocacy events inside and outside of policy for multiple years now, better part of a decade, right? In your opinion, how is this summit unique, or what are some of your takeaways from participating in this summit?
Yeah, it makes it real personal, right? Because you're a part of a team. You go out there, whether it's in person or over the phone, and you have to tell someone your story. That's really almost the easy part, right? But it's trying to make that connection with our representatives out there makes it real personal, and of course it's important, right? It, we talked about it. It's pushing that boulder upwards. You can't do that by yourself. Well, we have made the choice to do that during the summits, right? And of course, there's all kinds of other activities outside of that, but it's that activity. What makes it extra special for me and for I'm sure many of the survivors, lung cancer survivors out there, is that for me it created purpose in my life. Oftentimes we wonder, why did I get lung cancer, right? And it's not for everyone, but I'm sure some of us are like, this is why I got lung cancer, because now I can do something that is valuable and important for other people, for myself and for other people, to get recognition at the federal level, at state level, and then drive money towards just a better situation overall. That's purpose in life, to help people get there and increase survivorship. That's just big, right? I can't say it any other way.
You said it beautifully, and the smile on your face speaks even louder to your point about being able to, and you said something earlier, I think that's important, when you're first diagnosed, it's a scary place, right? And so getting your bearings around what that diagnosis means and what your treatment plan is and all of that, of course, takes precedence. But there are multiple opportunities to engage after that, and to your point, do something about it, right? So thank you for all of your words. I'm keeping an eye on the clock, and I have a few minutes left. There's a couple of things I want to talk about as it pertains to our Voices Advocacy Summit. For those of you who have already registered, thank you. We look forward to seeing you. The summit is taking place this year, March 23rd through 25th. And as most of you know, or all of you know, I'm going to say it anyway, that lung cancer impacts men, women, families. It impacts people, right? We are all part of this community who wants to help affect change. And this year's Voices Summit theme is to tell Congress it's personal. Whether you're a patient, a caregiver, a researcher, nurse, physician, advocate, we encourage you to attend this event and let your members of Congress know how lung cancer affects you and how so many face this disease with courage and hope. So together, we want to go up on the Hill virtually, albeit, and tell Congress that it is personal, and let them know that they can help to make a huge impact by elevating lung cancer awareness and increasing the much needed research dollars. Your voice and story can make these goals a reality. For those of you who have participated, you know a little bit about what to expect at the summit, but for those of you who haven't, it's 3 days, 5-hour days filled with multiple things. It's not just about going to the Hill. There's keynote presentations by expert speakers, breakout sessions for survivors and caregivers, families and friends. The Lung Cancer Living Room, we will be hosting another living room at the summit, focusing on COVID and lung cancer and some of the research that's going on there, as well as vaccines and rollouts of those vaccines, advocacy, education, and training, networking, as Francis, alluded to, and the opportunity to connect with others like you. There's a virtual exhibit hall where you can go and talk to the folks who are sponsoring and exhibiting, and talk to them personally about what they're working on in lung cancer. And then, of course, an online action toolkit to help you better understand what you can do, not just during the summit, but really throughout the year to help advance the cause in this way. Again, I'm encouraging everyone to register for the congressional meetings. We handle the scheduling, so it's really a no-brainer. Nobody has to do anything. You just need to bring your voice, tell your story. Again, help them understand why it's personal. So for those of you who are interested, please go to our website at gotofoundation.org. The main page has a holding bar on it with a register today button. It's free. It's not going to cost you a dime. And I promise it will be a rewarding experience. I want to mention that we currently have hundreds of people registered, which is fantastic. We have representation from 34 states, but there's always room for more. Like as we've been kind of the theme throughout this has been, we can't have enough voices behind this. So I'm going to call out some missing states, and if you're watching or you know somebody from one of these states, maybe give a little push to have them potentially register and participate. So it's Alaska, Arkansas, Idaho, Maine, Mississippi, Nebraska, Nevada, New Hampshire, New Mexico, North Dakota, Oklahoma, Rhode Island, South Dakota, Utah, Vermont, West Virginia, and Wyoming. We are calling you. We are calling out to you to come and join us again, March 23rd through 25th. And then I want to let everybody know that February 19th is the deadline for registration. We need to start booking a lot of these meetings, so we need to get on that. So please, we have a few days. And I want to let you guys know if you're new and or if you're coming back and just want a refresher. Francis has been working hard with others from the National Ambassador Council to work on a training webinar to help you better, even further understand what's going on and what to expect that day. That will be held on February 24th at 9 a.m. Pacific, 12 Eastern. Details will be available after the deadline because we want to make sure to get it out to everyone. So I'm going to shoot to Laurie for any final thoughts before we show you guys a quick video and then do some closing and housekeeping.
The final thoughts are, and it's echoing a lot of what Francis was saying earlier, this is an extraordinary way to feel a sense of community. You are coming together and doing something that is so impactful for anyone that is touched by this disease and what we are hoping to achieve by elevating our voices. And it is personal for all of us. And the more we let our elected leaders know, the more we will achieve to transform survivorship. So we just look forward to being together, not in the perfect way that we've all enjoyed, which was a real sense of camaraderie and arms around each other, literally. But we're here for you. This is just one element of the many things that we do to bring our community together, but with so many other programs that are there to be of help to you throughout your journey, wherever you may find yourself. So I'll close out with that.
Thank you, Laurie. And Rocky, can you cue the video before we go to final closing? Sorry, the lung cancer, it's personal.
Lung cancer, it's personal.
Hi, I'm Denise. I'm a 10-year survivor of stage 4 lung adenocarcinoma. Lung cancer, it's personal.
Lung cancer, it's personal.
Lung cancer, yeah, it's personal.
My name is Giovanna Maria Portillo. I am a stage 1B lung cancer survivor from Phoenix, Arizona. Lung cancer, it's personal.
Lung cancer, it's personal.
Lung cancer, it's personal.
Hi, I'm Dr. Karen R. Scott. Lung cancer, it's personal.
Lung cancer, it's personal.
Lung cancer, it's personal.
Thank you for pulling that up, Rocky. I think it's important that we show just a few of the many faces and advocates who are working alongside with us so passionately day in and day out. So thank you for showing that. On to some closing and some housekeeping. Some of you have been asking about Bonnie's book, which is called The Living Room, a Lung Cancer Community of Courage. It is still available for pre-sale, but I'm happy to, at Amazon or Barnes & Noble, of course, on our website. But the hard copy will launch and be released on May 4th. So it's coming a little bit sooner than we had originally anticipated. So make sure to set a little ticker reminder for that. Our next living room is March 16th. And we're going to be discussing advancements in early stage lung cancer. We talked about it a little bit with the biomarker testing and sort of what's going on in the pre-surgical or post-surgical state. So we're going to dig a little bit deeper into that. Most of you know, and I talked recently about Step Into Spring, which is our next 5K and or Do It Your Way event that will be coming up. Please, again, go to our foundation for more information on how to register. And consider joining our lung cancer registry. Patients also ask all the time, what are some simple, easy things we can do to participate? And our lung cancer registry is a really easy place for you to help us get more information that we can then go back out and share with our scientific community in particular to help find commonalities and make quicker advancements in lung cancer space. I want to give a huge, huge thank you to both Laurie and Francis for coming and talking tonight. I think for me, it's always wonderful to be able to talk about the work, not only that we're doing, but how our patients are and caregivers in our community are helping us to advance the work that we're doing. So thank you very much for participating tonight. Peninsula Television, as always, the back end of this program, for helping us make it a seamless or seemingly seamless effort. Thank you to you all too. And then of course, it goes without saying, the support that we receive in order to bring this program to you every month. So Janssen, we have Amgen, AstraZeneca, Boehringer Ingelheim, Bristol Myers Squibb, Foundation Medicine, Genentech, Jazz Pharmaceuticals, Lilly, Merck, Novartis, Regeneron, Sanofi, and Takeda. Thank you from the bottom of our hearts for making it possible for us to bring this to our amazing community. So thank you all for participating tonight. I am shocked that we are only 4 minutes over because there was so much to cover, but I think we all did such a great job. So thank you all. Have a good night, and we'll see you next month.
Oh, I'll be brave if you're brave. I'll be brave, but only if you're brave. And it could be just you and me. We'll be family. Just wait and see.